Hello again, and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. I'm Andrew Wilson, and this is Scotland at 7. This evening I have the latest daily update from Ukraine on day 666 of the illegal Russian war of aggression and imperial ambition. We have headlines from Israel and Gaza, and then I'll take a look at the rest of the day's headlines from Scotland and around the world. Ukraine's armed forces are taking up a more defensive posture, the UK Ministry of Defence said in its latest analysis of the conflict, as winter weather sets in after almost 22 months of war. Russia's tax revenue from exports of oil and petroleum products has fallen by 32% after a price ceiling was enacted by the US and its allies to restrict funding for its war in Ukraine. Kyiv plans to produce 1 million FPV first-person view drones, widely in demand on the front line, and more than 11,000 medium and long-range attack drones next year, Oleksandr Kamyshin, Ukraine's Minister for Strategic Industries, said on Wednesday. The international rules-based system needs urgent and fundamental change if it is not to collapse, the Estonian Foreign Minister has said, calling for a new global conversation to begin on how to reform the UN and the International Criminal Court. Moldova plans to leave the Commonwealth of Independent States, a Russia-aligned trade and political body, by the end of 2024, Parliamentary Foreign Policy Committee head Doina German said on Wednesday. The former TV journalist Yekaterina Duntsova has put her name forward to stand in the Russian presidential election in March that Vladimir Putin is expected to win by a landslide. Duntsova, 40, has called for an end to the conflict in Ukraine and the release of political prisoners, including the opposition leader Alexei Navalny. A Russian court fined Alphabet's Google parent 4.6 billion rubles, that's about $51 million, for failing to delete what Russia called fake information about the conflict in Ukraine and other topics, the TASS news agency has reported. The RIA news agency said the fine had also been imposed due to Google failing to remove extremist content and the distribution of what Russia calls LGBT propaganda. On Wednesday, German federal prosecutors said they aimed to seize hundreds of millions of euros from an unnamed Russian bank as part of a Western crackdown over Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. And the Kremlin said on Wednesday that there's no current basis for peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, and that Kyiv's proposed peace plan was absurd as it excluded Russia. And now from Israel and Gaza, Human Rights Watch has accused Meta of systemic censorship of Palestinian content under their content moderation policies and systems. Human Rights Watch say Meta are increasingly silencing pro-Palestine content on Facebook and Instagram. Human Rights Watch says there is a pattern of undue removal and suppression of protected speech, including peaceful expression in support of Palestine and public debate about Palestinian rights. Prospects for an exchange deal involving the release of more hostages remained uncertain, as Hamas insisted it would not discuss anything less than a complete end to Israel's offensive in Gaza. The Jordanian Foreign Minister, Ayman Safadi, warned the failure of the UN Security Council to pass a resolution on Gaza would mean applying dangerous double standards. Safadi said the draft resolution, which is expected to be voted on later today, focused on speeding up aid shipments that Jordan says Israel has been obstructing to prevent life-saving assistance from entering. The first aid convoy to travel direct from Jordan to Gaza since the start of the war has delivered 750 tons of food to the Palestinian territory, the UN World Food Programme has said. Dr. Natalie Thurtle, an Australian doctor who coordinated medical aid to Gaza, has expressed horror at the huge proportion of children being killed or maimed for life as the UN Security Council again delayed a vote on a ceasefire resolution. The World Health Organization said today that northern Gaza had been left without a functional hospital due to a lack of fuel, staff and supplies. Richard Pieperkorn, the WHO representative in Gaza, told reporters there are actually no functional hospitals left in the north. The Israeli military says it has uncovered a major command centre in the heart of Gaza City, inflicting what it described as a serious blow to Hamas. An Israeli airstrike killed a senior border official, Colonel Bassem Rabin, and 3 others in Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip near the border with Egypt, health officials said. In southern Lebanon, an Israeli strike killed an elderly woman and wounded her husband in their home. More than 8,000 Palestinians are being held in Israeli jails amid an intensified wave of arrests and detentions in Gaza and the West Bank since 7th of October, according to human rights groups. Democracy for the Arab World Now, DAWN, a human rights organisation partly founded by the late journalist Jamal Khashoggi, said it had submitted a dossier to the International Criminal Court naming 40 senior Israeli commanders who it argues should be investigated as war crime suspects in relation to the war in Gaza. The Israeli army has acknowledged a significant error over the shooting of 3 Israelis held hostage in Gaza. 5 days before the shooting, a military search dog with a body camera had captured audio of them shouting for help in Hebrew, Associated Press has reported. The German shipping company Hapag-Lloyd said that it would reroute 25 ships by the end of the year to avoid the Suez Canal and the Red Sea, where Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis are targeting merchant ships. Egypt's foreign minister said that countries on the Red Sea have a responsibility to protect its waters. And Emmanuel Macron has said that Israel's goal of fighting terrorism did not mean it had to flatten Gaza. A student at Prague's Charles University has shot dead more than 15 people and injured 24 others, 9 of them seriously, before being killed by police, officers have said. At a press briefing this evening, the police chief, Martin Vondracek, said that the toll may rise further, adding that the shooting had been a premeditated, violent attack, apparently inspired by similar massacres abroad. The Czech Interior Minister, Vít Rakušan, said there was no indication the crime had any connection with international terrorism. Shortly after 3 p.m. local time, that's 2 p.m. GMT, police said that they responded to a shooting at Jan Palach Square in central Prague. Less than an hour later, they said on X that the shooter had been eliminated and the entire building was being evacuated. Teachers and students were instructed by email to take shelter as the police action was underway. Stay put, don't go anywhere. If you're in the offices, lock them and place furniture in front of the door. Turn off the lights, the email said. The Czech president, Petr Pavel, said he was shocked by the events at the university. I would like to express my deep regret and sincere condolences to the families and relatives of the victims that the shooting claimed, he said. The Prime Minister, Petr Fiala, said that he had cancelled a trip to the east of the country because of the tragic events at the Faculty of Philosophy and was returning to Prague, where the city's mayor, Bohuslav Svoboda, said he was completely shocked. European leaders sent their condolences. Shocked by the senseless violence of the shooting that claimed several lives today in Prague, the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, said on X, "We stand and mourn with you." Police sealed off Jan Palach Square and the area adjacent to the university building, which is situated in a busy part of the town, crossed by a popular street that leads up to the old town square. Emergency services said a large number of ambulance units were deployed at the faculty, adding that the injuries ranged from light to very serious. Officials said no other gunman was thought to be involved in the shooting. Czech media reported that a blast had been heard before a gunman on the roof of the university building had opened fire. Several outlets published a photo of an armed man in dark clothing on the roof of the building. Gun crime is relatively rare in the Czech Republic. In December 2019, a 42-year-old gunman killed 6 people at a hospital waiting room in the eastern Czech city of Ostrava before fleeing and fatally shooting himself, the police said. The Scottish Government has welcomed the approval of the proposed new chair and 2 land commissioners of the Scottish Land Commission, the SLC, following a riotous hearing in the Scottish Parliament, with the Conservative MP Stephen Kerr shouting corruption from his seat. Ministers selected Michael Russell as the new chair of the SLC and Craig Mackenzie and Deborah Roberts as land commissioners, following recommendations presented by an independent panel In line with the Land Reform Scotland Act 2016, ministerial appointments to the SLC are subject to parliamentary approval. The appointment of the new chair and land commissioners will be confirmed and publicised early in the new year once the public appointments process is completed. The role of the Scottish Land Commission is to advise the Scottish Government on an ongoing programme of land reform and to provide leadership for change in culture and practice. The Rural Affairs Secretary, Vary Gudgeon, said, "I would like to thank David Adams and Megan McInnes, who are stepping down as Land Commissioners, as well as the outgoing Chair, Andrew Thinn. I especially wish to commend Andrew for his leadership and the expertise that he showed throughout his time on the Commission. From getting the Commission established on time to developing it into a well-respected and trusted voice on land reform, the achievements of the outgoing members are numerous. They have undertaken key research and informed policy decisions and have set the Commission on a firm footing." She continued, "I would like to congratulate the new Chair and new Land Commissioners and look forward to working with them. They have the opportunity to build on these achievements, and I know that they will continue to work hard to create a Scotland where everyone can benefit from the ownership and use of the nation's land and buildings." England's Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, has been accused of deliberately belittling junior doctors after describing them as doctors in training. Atkins, who has refused to resume talks with junior doctors unless they call off their strike, made the comments in an aside on BBC Breakfast this morning. Junior doctors make up almost half of all doctors in the NHS in England and are often in post for a decade or more before moving to consultant level. The doctors entered the second day of their strike, 3-day strike in England. Atkins showed no sign of shifting position. Describing negotiations on pay across the NHS, Atkins said, "The last cohort is that of junior doctors, or doctors in training as I prefer to call them, and they sadly, to my great disappointment, they walked out of our negotiations and then called the strike." Dr. Heather Williams, a consultant medical physicist, wrote on X, formerly Twitter, "Doctors in training is deliberately used by Victoria Atkins to belittle here, as if the Health Secretary is speaking to undergrad students rather than established members of hospital staff responsible for patient care, pretty much everyone who isn't a consultant." Many others in the medical and political world expressed outrage at the phrase. Dr. Susie Gage, a research lead at the Wellcome Trust, wrote, "I agree with her that junior doctors is a bit of a misnomer, but not because they are doctors in training, because they are fully qualified and undervalued." Talks between the government and the Doctors' Union, the British Medical Association, broke down earlier this month after ministers refused to make a final offer before the BMA's deadline. The strike began at 7 a.m. on the 20th of December and is due to finish at the same time on Saturday. Amid fears that the strike could overwhelm hospitals already under pressure from winter viruses, Atkins said doctors had picked the worst week in the NHS's calendar for industrial action. The BMA's Junior Doctors Committee said the government's offer of a further 3% rise on top of the 8% already imposed was nowhere near far enough. They argued they are due a 35% pay rise to make up for the 26.2% fall in the value of their pay since 2008. In Scotland, junior doctors and the Scottish Government reached a pay settlement which avoided strike action in Scotland's NHS. The blustery weather brought by Storm Pia has helped the UK wind farms set a new clean energy record, with wind turbines generating more than half of the country's electricity. Wind farms generated 21.8 gigawatts of electricity between 8 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. this morning, according to Renewable UK, which is a not-for-profit renewable energy trade association quoting figures from the National Grid's Electricity System Operator, the ESO. This beats the previous record of 21.6 gigawatts set on the 10th of January. Wind generated 56% of the UK's electricity, although this fell short of the record percentage of electricity generated from wind in a half-hour period, which was 69% on the 19th of November this year. Dan McGrail, the chief executive of Renewable UK, said, "Setting a new wind energy record is a great achievement to celebrate during this festive period. Wind power is taking centre stage in our modern clean energy mix, strengthening our energy security and keeping Britain powered up at the coldest, darkest time of the year." Storm Pia has caused disruption across the UK, with gusts of up to 80 miles per hour blowing trees across rail lines. The news comes a day after the Danish renewable energy firm Ørsted decided to push ahead with plans to build the world's biggest wind farm off the coast of Norfolk. It made a final investment decision on the Hornsea 3 project off the East Anglian coast, which will have the capacity to power more than 3.3 million homes and is expected to cost 70 billion up to 75 billion Danish kroner. That's between 8 and 8.7 billion pounds. It is due to be completed by the end of 2027. The future of the project had been uncertain after Ørsted ditched plans to build wind farms off the US coast amid surging costs for the global wind industry from rising interest rates, steel prices and wages. In July, the Swedish power company Vattenfall halted a 1.4 gigawatt UK offshore wind project in the North Sea, citing higher costs and challenging market conditions. Dan McGrail said, "In the new year, the renewable energy industry will be working closely with the government to ensure that we maximise investment in new projects, most critically through the next auction for the new clean energy projects, to lower everyone's energy bills and to get us to net zero as fast as possible." He called on the UK government to be ambitious when they set out new parameters in March for next summer's auction, which he hopes will secure a record amount of new renewable energy capacity and boost jobs in the sector. The last offshore wind auction in September did not attract any bids, as the price for energy offered to developers had not taken account of high inflation in their costs. Industry insiders said disastrous handling by the government had created a big shortfall in future renewable energy. A total of 23 asylum seekers are thought to have killed themselves in Home Office accommodation in the last 4 years, and that's more than double the total in the previous 4 years, according to research undertaken by Liberty Investigates. The research found that 23 people are confirmed or suspected to have died by suicide between 2020 and so far in 2023. Between April 2016 and the end of 2019, 10 people are thought to have killed themselves, according to Freedom of Information data. In further data from 2020 until August 2023, 19 people are thought to have died by suicide, and since then, a further 4 asylum seekers are believed to have brought the total to at least 23. The new data, obtained by Liberty Investigates, has emerged just days after an Albanian asylum seeker, Leonard Faruku, was reported to have taken his life on the Bibi Stockholm barge, which is moored in Portland in Dorset. A total of 176 people have died in government asylum seeker accommodation from a variety of causes as of 27 August this year, according to Home Office Freedom of Information data. A further 4 deaths in the remaining months of 2023, all of which are thought to have been self-inflicted, have come to light, bringing the known total to 180. In February 2022, a 25-year-old Eritrean killed himself at a train station. In August last year, a 29-year-old Iranian died after having applied for asylum 14 months earlier. In more recent cases, those included those of Irakli Kapanadze, 37, found dead outside his asylum hotel in Wakefield on the 14th of September this year, and Rima Al-Badi, a 21-year-old from Oman, who is said to have taken her own life on the 1st of September after more than a year in a Home Office hotel. Graham O'Neill, the policy manager at the Scottish Refugee Council, said the revelations pointed to something badly wrong in what is a juggernaut of institutional accommodation affecting over 50,000 refugees. This accommodation, where room sharing is increasingly required, is often traumatised people left to exist in the severest of poverty of £1.25 a day and not allowed to work. One consequence is plummeting mental health. The inquest into the death of the 27-year-old Leonard Faruku from Albania opened in Bournemouth today. The senior coroner, Rachel Griffin, has given the Home Office 6 weeks to provide a written statement on circumstances surrounding his death on board the Bibi Stockholm barge. The hearing was told that Faruku was identified by his cousin, Maranglen Faruku, at Holly Tree Lodge Mortuary in Bournemouth on the 18th of December, 6 days after his body was found on the barge. Albania's parliament has voted to strip the country's former president of his legal immunity after he was charged with corruption. Sali Berisha, 79, who dominated Albanian politics in the early 90s as head of state and again as Conservative Prime Minister between 2005 and 2013, now faces probable arrest and, if convicted, a sentence of between 4 and 12 years in jail. Leaving the chamber surrounded by bodyguards, Berisha said, "I am stronger than ever," and his loyal MPs lit flares to protest the decision, which passed by 75 votes to 65. He has denied all wrongdoing, dismissing the investigation as a political witch hunt, instigated by the current socialist Prime Minister, Edi Rama. Outside, several hundred of Berisha's supporters protested as police cordoned off the Parliament building, and officers in anti-riot gear and equipped with water cannon stood by in case of violence after the vote. The veteran politician and his son-in-law, Jamar Ber Maltesi, was charged in October with passive corruption dating back to 2008, when Berisha's government introduced a law allowing the privatisation of state-owned sports facilities dating back to the communist era. Albania's Special Prosecutor's Office for Corruption and Organised Crime alleges that the legal changes profited business projects in which Berisha and Maltesi had financial stakes, and that the two men collected €5.4 million in kickbacks. Maltesi allegedly took advantage of the legislation to convert a sports complex in Tirana, owned by the Defence Ministry, into flats. He was arrested after being charged, while Berisha was barred from leaving the country. Prosecutors demanded a vote to revoke the former leader's immunity after he refused to cooperate with authorities during the investigation, and he ignored a measure requiring him to report to police twice a month. Albania, one of the poorest countries in Europe, is regularly ranked as one of the most corrupt in the continent. Last year, Berisha was banned from entering the US and the UK over alleged involvement in organised crime and corruption. The Scottish Government say they will invest more than £5 billion in building a fair, green and growing economy which creates jobs, supports businesses and helps finance Scotland's public services and the transition to net zero. In one of the most difficult financial climates since devolution, the Scottish Government says that the 2024-25 budget maintains their focus on core priorities and drives forward a government-wide approach to economic transformation. Measures include allocating £67 million to kickstart a 5-year commitment to develop Scotland's offshore wind supply chain and to ensure the country reaps the benefits of and to make sure that the UK reaps the benefits of the global expansion in wind power. This brings total Scottish public sector support for offshore wind to £87 million next year. The budget also boosts annual investment in digital connectivity from £93 million to £140 million in 2024-25, delivering critical infrastructure to enable businesses to innovate and grow, while connecting more than 114,000 homes and companies in rural areas to gigabit-capable broadband through the R100 programme. Since entrepreneurship is at the heart of Scotland's economic strategy, a further £9 million investment in the Tech Scalers programme will support the country's best startups with world-class mentoring. The Scottish Government is also prioritising the implementation of Anna Stewart and Mark Logan's Pathways report, focused on helping more women to start and grow businesses. The budget also includes putting more than £2.5 billion into public transport to provide viable alternatives to car use, and a further £220 million in active travel to promote walking, wheeling and cycling, providing £358 million to continue accelerating energy efficiency upgrades and the installation of clean heating systems, increasing the education and skills budget by £128 million, and investing £49 million to promote the reuse of resources and reduce consumption, to modernise recycling and to decarbonise waste disposal as part of Scotland's transition to a circular economy. The Wellbeing Economy Secretary Neil Gray said, "Our focus is on creating new opportunities for a highly productive, competitive economy, providing thousands of new jobs, embedding innovation and boosting skills. We are using all the powers that we have to support business and to achieve our ambitious net zero targets. Our strategic investment in offshore wind will stimulate and support private investment in the infrastructure and manufacturing facilities critical to the growth of the sector, and we are delivering a real terms increase in the education budget to help boost skills and increase productivity. As a priority, we will also consult on options for improving the capacity of local authority planning services. He continued, Scotland's finances face a worst case scenario of underinvestment, which means we must make the difficult choices necessary to focus our limited resources on what will deliver most effectively for people and businesses. We've seen an autumn statement that prioritised a tax cut over investing in public services and infrastructure. The Scottish Government cannot follow this and has not shied away from taking the tough decisions needed to protect and to grow this country's economy. The Scottish Government are seeking views on proposals to better protect, respect and champion the rights of people with learning disabilities, autistic and neurodivergent people. The Learning Disabilities, Autism and Neurodivergence Bill consultation includes proposals that would provide benefits in many areas of life, including more inclusive communications and mandatory training in the public sector to address the stigma and barriers people often face. The Mental Health Minister, Marie Todd, said, people with learning disabilities, autistic people and neurodivergent people make up around 15% of our society, and many of them think and see the world differently. This shouldn't cause them to be stigmatised or disadvantaged, and the Scottish Government is committed to ensuring that their rights are respected. This public consultation has been designed alongside people with lived experience, and we have worked closely with third sector organisations and support providers to ensure that those who know the challenges best are at the heart of any action we take. I am keen to hear views from as many people as possible on our proposals. I am confident that, together, we can build a fairer Scotland for all. The consultation will run from today for 17 weeks, closing on the 21st of April 2024. The publication of the consultation delivers on the Scottish Government commitment to consult on the bill by the end of 2023. The bill consultation has been developed with a human rights-based approach and co-designed with people with lived experience. The consultation has been co-designed with LEAP, including up to 27 people with lived experience of various conditions, including learning disabilities, autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Down syndrome, and others. The stakeholder panel and practitioner panel are also involved in preparing the consultation, which included organisations and charities representing the views of a wide range of people and a range of practitioners from organisations providing support and other services. Now, on this day 35 years ago, Pan Am Flight 103 left Heathrow Airport, headed for New York City. At 7:03 p.m, the Boeing 747, known as the Clipper made of the seas, levelled off at 31,000 feet. Just north of the border, an explosion blew a football-sized hole in the fuselage, and the plane, carrying 259 men, women and children, broke apart and fell to earth. All were killed, along with 11 residents of the town of Lockerbie. In a statement on the 35th anniversary of the disaster, our First Minister Humza Yousaf said, on the anniversary of the terrible events of 21st December 1988 in Lockerbie, my thoughts and sympathies remain with all those who lost loved ones on board Pan Am Flight 103 and those in the town of Lockerbie. My thoughts are also with the emergency workers who responded in the immediate aftermath of the atrocity. Their rapid response, along with the people of Lockerbie, while facing extraordinary circumstances, demonstrated extreme kindness and humanity in the face of such horrific events. While those lost on that night can never be replaced, and the events have had a lasting impact on the town, I know links were forged following the disaster between Lockerbie and other communities that continue to this day, including the Syracuse University Scholarship Programme with Lockerbie Academy. The strength and compassion that both victims' families and the community of Lockerbie have shown has created a legacy of friendship and ensured that the memory of those who died lives on. And that is all that we have for you this evening. In making these programmes, Broadcasting Scotland depends on the generosity of viewers and others who value our distinctive approach to news, current affairs and culture. Please help us to continue to make these programmes, to continue to develop the station and to make new programmes. Our programmes will always be free to view, but if you can afford £5 a month, please consider becoming a Broadcasting Scotland supporter. Our need to reach our £30,000 target to pay our bills is still pressing. Due to the generosity of our supporters, we have raised nearly £22,000. However, our need to raise the remaining £8,000 is now really urgent. To everyone who has donated, and to everyone who has signed up to make a regular monthly payment as a Broadcasting Scotland supporter, thank you very much. There are other ways in which you can contribute to our work. If you would like to volunteer to work with Broadcasting Scotland, either behind the scenes or in front of the cameras, or in any other way that helps our work, then please visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot and send us a message there. You can find us on X Twitter, Mastodon and Blue Sky at Broadcast Scot. Please like, retweet, boost and reskeet us there, and you can also find us on Facebook by searching for Broadcasting Scotland. While you're watching us on YouTube, it would be great if you would like and subscribe to Broadcasting Scotland on that platform. Now, we will be back at midday on Christmas Eve with the first full Scottish review of the year. That'll be at 12 noon, so please come and join us then. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has been watching this evening. Please look after yourselves, and please have a very peaceful Christmas. Bye-bye.